Think about the last time you heard someone say they're a bit mental, she's crazy, he's a psycho, or perhaps everyone gets depressed. I'm so OCD about that. They just need to pull themselves together. These phrases can slip into everyday conversation without much thought. But when we're talking about mental health, words matter. The language we choose can help reduce stigma or unintentionally reinforce it. And stigma matters because if people believe they'll be judged, labeled, laughed at, or treated differently because of their mental health, they may be less likely to tell somebody they're struggling or seek support. So let's think about how we can choose better language.
First, let's be clear about what I mean by poor language. Poor language can include words that label someone entirely by a mental health condition. For example, she's schizophrenic. Instead, we might say, she's living with schizophrenia. Why does that small change matter? Because a person is more than a diagnosis. We wouldn't normally describe someone entirely by one aspect of their health, personality, or circumstances. Person-centered language reminds us that we're talking about a human being first. Another problem is using mental health terminology casually as a description. I'm so OCD because I like my desk tidy. The weather is bipolar today. That meeting gave me PTSD. We might not intend any harm when we say these things. But conditions such as obsessive-compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder are real conditions that can have a significant impact on people's lives. Using diagnostic terms casually can trivialize those experiences. Then there are words such as crazy, mad, psycho, nutcase, loony. When they're used to describe someone experiencing mental health difficulties, these words can reinforce stereotypes suggesting that people are frightening, unpredictable, or somehow fundamentally different from everyone else. We can choose better language. Instead of saying, he's suffering from mental illness, depending on the person's preference and circumstances, we could say, he's experiencing mental health difficulties. He's living with a mental health condition. Or simply, he's having a difficult time with his mental health. Notice something about those phrases. They're descriptive rather than judgmental. And sometimes it's even simpler than that. Imagine a colleague hasn't seen themselves recently. Instead of saying, what's wrong with you? Try, I've noticed you don't seem yourself. How are you doing? Instead of, you need to pull yourself together. Try what would help at the moment. Instead of everyone gets stressed, you'll be fine. Try. That sounds really difficult. Do you want to talk about it? Instead of, why didn't you tell someone sooner? Try. I'm glad you've told me. Small changes in language can completely change the tone of a conversation. But there's another important point. We don't need to become terrified of saying the wrong thing. If we're so worried about getting every word perfect that we avoid conversations about mental health altogether, that doesn't help either. Language changes, people have different preferences, and sometimes we will get it wrong. If you're unsure how somebody describes their own experience, there's nothing wrong with asking respectfully. What language would you prefer me to use? And if someone tells you that a phrase you've used isn't helpful, listen rather than becoming defensive. Now let's turn this into an activity. I want you to become a language detective. Find something that talks about mental health. It could be a newspaper or online article, a company wellbeing document, your organization's mental health policy, an absence management policy, training material, a staff handbook, or even a social media post. Read through it and look carefully at the language. Highlight every word or phrase used to describe mental health, mental illness, or somebody experiencing difficulties. Then ask yourself 4 questions. 1. Is the language respectful? Does it describe the person and their experience without labeling or judging them? 2. Does it reinforce a stereotype? Does the wording suggest that somebody experiencing mental ill health is weak, dangerous, unreliable, or somehow fundamentally different? 3. Does it trivialize mental health? Are diagnostic terms being used casually, or are serious experiences being dismissed as something everyone should simply get over? And finally, 4. Could I say this better? Choose 2 or 3 phrases from the article, policy, or document and rewrite them. Make them clearer, more respectful, more person-centered, and less judgmental. You could even do the same exercise with your own language. Think about the words you use at work, at home, and with friends. Are there phrases you've used for years without really thinking about what they imply? This isn't about policing every conversation. It's about becoming more conscious of the effect our words can have. Because tackling stigma doesn't always require a huge campaign. Sometimes it starts with a conversation, a manager changing the way they ask a question, a colleague refusing to join in with a joke, an organization changing outdated wording in a policy, or one person feeling safe enough to say, actually, I'm struggling. We all have a role in creating environments where people can talk about mental health without fear of judgment. And one of the simplest places to start is with the words we choose. So here's your challenge. Find an article, policy, or document about mental health. Look at the language, identify what works, challenge what doesn't, and rewrite at least 3 phrases in a better way. Then ask yourself one final question. If I was struggling with my mental health, would the language used here make me more comfortable talking about it or less? Because words matter. And choosing better ones is something every one of us can do.